Hello and welcome to Beyond the Bio. Today's guest is Laurie Stirling, who is an award-winning mentor who specialises in helping founders to scale their businesses without scaling their stress. I think we all need a bit of that. But this isn't just theory, because Laurie had built a successful creative agency over 14 years only to realise that she couldn't sell it because she was the business. That turning point sparked her signature Step Back to Scale framework and a mission to help others break free from being the bottleneck in their own growth. So if you've ever felt like your business would fall apart without you, then this episode is for you. We're exploring what it really takes to grow, delegate and scale when you are the talent. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the show, Laurie.
I'm excited to be here.
It's so good to have you here.
It's unusual to have the seats in the opposite direction of each other since the first time we met.
So let's go back a little bit, because obviously we've just mentioned there about you having this agency. When did you realise that you had become the bottleneck in your business?
It wasn't actually until years after I actually sold the business. So when I started my business, I was at 21 years old. I was so naive. I thought I knew how. I was a bookkeeper before that, and I'm like, I knew how to fill out a tax form. I know everything there is to know about running a business, and I was so wrong. But through that trial and error of growing that business and being successful, six-figure profits, feeding our family, a growing family, bought a house, traveled overseas, and we built a really successful business. But when we moved from the UK to Australia, we had no assets that we could sell inside that business. And at that time, we actually sold one of our assets. So we sold our branding to a real estate agency. And along with that branding, because we're a web development agency, every website we ever built had our little link to our website at the bottom in the footer. And so when we sold the branding, all of our clients backlinked back to this real estate agency after we sold that over. So we did make a little bit of profit off that sale, but we couldn't sell the business itself. When I moved to the UK, I worked with clients who had unpredictable income, and they wanted to be able to live on that unpredictable income and be able to budget both their home and their business finances. So that was the avenue that I went into. But what the problem I had is I could diagnose the problems inside a business looking at their metrics and their data and their numbers, but I couldn't fix the problem until I went deeper into operations. And that was when I became obsessed with operations. And I actually worked for a company who at the time was the biggest name in operations. It was like a $5,000 US company that had this course going. And I'm like, I really want to do that course, but I didn't have $5,000 US at the time. So I reached out to them and asked whether I could be a coach inside their business. And they took it up. And so I went from earning 120 Australian dollars an hour coaching at that time down to $20 US. So I could do that program. I was being paid to do a program instead of paying the $5,000. I thought it was a win-win. I upskilled immensely, was open to a whole new world of a business being able to run without you. And so to answer that question, that was the time that I realized my business could have been running without me, and it would have been far more valuable to sell in that time. So it wasn't until years later.
This is such an interesting topic for me, because I've built a few businesses, and a lot of what's made sales easy has been the fact that I've become known well as of the brand lead in the business. Yes. So what advice would you be giving me if I was thinking about exiting Moja in, say, 5 years' time?
I would be starting to nurture somebody else in the business to become the next leader. And that would be, I would start to raise their profile. So I would be looking at helping them to become well known in the industry. You're transferring a bit of your trust over to them. You're saying, look, they're the best person to handle this. I've stepped back from the business. This person is ready to take the reins and go forward. So yeah, a bit of that transfer.
So it's kind of a bit of succession planning.
It is.
In that sense. So you said that with that business, it wasn't sellable because everything relied on you, which obviously you've realised since. How has that impacted your view of personal branding?
Very interesting. So now I'm all in on speaking events and things like that. But it took me some time to get my head around it, because I thought I had to wait until I was successful and I had all of these examples of how successful I was before someone would even let me on a stage to be able to speak about it. And so it would always felt like the cart before the horse. Like I would be successful. Like once I was successful, I could speak on stages, but I had this moment where I realized, no, I need to speak on stages to be successful.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was for me being able to just put myself forward and say, no, I'm confident in myself. I'm the one who can vouch for me and say, I can speak on this topic and this area as an expert and back myself up. So I have YouTube channel that, I speak about it, and I can do blog posts and things like that, material that helps build up the authority that proves that I can speak on that topic.
It's so interesting, the speaking thing, isn't it? Because people do have that feeling that they need to be at a certain level. But
Yeah.
the thing with speaking, I find, is you kind of need to just practice a lot. So
Definitely.
my advice tends to be to look for those kind of easier speaking gigs to get the confidence up and practice your content. So things like speaking at schools or
Yeah.
unis, safe things, and just building up that confidence, because I think a lot of confidence with speaking does come from just honing that message and just doing it and doing it and doing it. And we've all got something to talk about.
Yeah.
We can all hold a conversation with someone else. It's kind of, just a bit of a step up from that, really, isn't it?
That's right. And your unique viewpoint, even if you're not the expert and the well-known person in that industry, you're still allowed to contribute to the conversation. Like you don't have to be the most well-known. You can still have your own viewpoint and your unique expertise and experience and skill set that made you to have your unique viewpoint on your industry.
I totally agree. So you now help others to scale, and haven't done it yourself. What was the first thing that you actually delegated, and how did it feel to let go of some of that control?
It would be client emails. Yes. That
So you don't
was
reply to your own emails?
I do. I reply to the important ones, but I get somebody to sort of filter through my emails to say, this can go to this person, that can go to the accountant, or to filter through that. Although these days there is AI that actually helps to do that filtering process first. So
does
that's
it?
yes.
What, within emails?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need this.
Yeah. So then half the work is already done for when my assistant comes in and looks through
nice.
those.
So can AI actually separate them out and put them into different pots?
Puts them in folders. Yes. And you can have some folders that stay in your inbox and some folders that don't even stay in your inbox. They get filed away, like newsletters. And then when I'm curious, I'll go through the newsletters and see, who's talking to me.
Oh, that's
That way,
interesting. I always feel that, like, there's a couple of things that I always feel a bit like "Ugh" about is emails, because I have a thing that we reply to a client within a day, a business day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important around being prompt, and I think that's people's expectations. So that would feel like a really big "Ugh" for me to not do my own emails. But the other thing is diary management. So everyone always says, oh, send me a Calendly link, and the team, Rachel set me up on Calendly ages ago, and I've just never used it because I just can't be bothered. And then, which is probably a total false economy, and I probably should just get my head around it, but I just find it easy. I don't know, I need to get with the times, really. I'm just a dinosaur, really.
Yeah. See, for me, I live by my calendar. I put my appointments in there. I put chunks of work that I wanted, if I'm doing deep work, in there. I have like theme days, so I'll put each day has like today's when I go follow up all my leads, and tomorrow I'll have sales calls, and then the day
I'd love
after.
to have a diary like that.
Yeah.
I feel like my diary is influenced so much by stuff that I commit to or overcommit to. So like speaking at certain events, like, some weeks, like the other week I was speaking at an event, and then I had to travel like a whole day to get to the event, and then travel a whole day back. And then I was speaking at another event at the end of the week, and I thought, oh my God, like 2/3 of my week has gone to sort of speaking, which was fine.
Yes.
I would really struggle to have that discipline to say on this day I do this and on this day I do this.
Oh,
But
there's plenty of flexibility. I have the rule
yeah.
that you don't always have all the information when you're planning your week or planning your month. So
Yeah.
you got to roll with the punches sometimes.
You do, you do. So one of the fears that I think people have around taking that step back is this thought of, if I step back, my clients might want to go somewhere else. Maybe it
Yeah.
feels less personal. How do you shift that client mindset so that they will trust the team?
Yeah.
If it's not just you.
Sometimes there are vital touch points that earn their trust, that either you can bring someone in at that point and you're both, let's say, an onboarding call or something like that. But in some cases, it's up to the business owner to say, look, you've come to me, like, I've trained this person in my ways. They are a clone of me of some sorts. So, like, you're the one who transfers that trust over to them. And you say, look, this person is expertise in this particular area. I'm going to let them answer that question and take over your account for you, that sort of thing. It happens in lots of ways. So it depends on the business owner's skill set, zone of genius. So if their zone of genius is in sales, that might be the very last piece that you get off your plate. You'll get 80% off your plate except for that last piece. Eventually, once everything else is there, you'll get to the point where you can train somebody else to understand what are the questions that you typically ask, what's the information you're gathering, and being able to ensure that the results you would get for your clients are equally as good as the results your team would get for your clients.
And on that point around sales, because I do the bulk of the sales in our business, can you ever train up someone else to be as good at sales as the founder?
I think it's hard to get the same passion, but I
Yes.
don't think it's impossible. And that's why I like the key person of influence sort of idea is you can actually sell from a stage and sell one to many instead of having to do the one-to-ones. And so being able to leverage the model that you use to sell. So that can be you sell on stages and then somebody else can take on that last 10% of convincing that they might have to need to work with you.
And to be fair, you're referring there to a bit to Daniel Priestley. And actually, when I think back to when I did Key Person of Influence in 2018, 2019, something like that, that's exactly what he did. So I went to one of his events. I saw him speak. I'd already read one, maybe two of his books. Was like, oh, I totally get this. And then he was clever because he then said, hey, if you're interested, sign up for some call where we will decide if we want to work with you. And he had to meet various criteria. And I went, well, I want them to choose me.
That's right.
I mean, what a clever way to sell.
Yes.
And then I had a call with one of the salespeople, and they definitely weren't as good as he would be on those kind of calls. I mean, he can sell anything to anyone; he really, really can.
Good.
But it was that last piece.
Yeah, that's
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is interesting. How do you make sure that your brand still feels personal, even when you're not the one that's delivering everything anymore?
I think it's about the nurturing piece of when you're getting your brand across. So brand awareness is like the very first piece of people realize that they've got a problem. And if you're the person that solves that problem for them, whether that's through social media, a video that you've put out, a book that you've written, that nurturing process that happens is a personal conversation. Even though it might not be one-to-one, it's through the pages of a book or through a screen, it still feels like a one-to-one conversation that happens. And I think that initial phase is where you win over most of the trust and and then you continue to nurture that through emails and points of contact with people. Even though you might be filming one video, that video can still reach many people and still feel personal.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. You give me a few things to think about there already. Let's talk about mindset. What had to shift in you to be able to really scale?
I think it was understanding that I needed to trust my team to be able to take over that work for me and not micromanage them. And it meant that I sort of had to give them boundaries. Like, here's my way of thinking. Here's my way of making a decision. and making that decision safe for them to be able to make that decision on my behalf. So when I'm a business owner, I take on a lot of the risk that happens, like when I make decisions. If I get the decision wrong, the buck falls at me. But when I'm delegating a task to my team members, I need to delegate the decision making that goes with that task. But that means I'm also passing the risk over to them. And they need to know that they feel safe to take that risk on. So what if they get the wrong answer? Do they get fired? Do they lose thousands of pounds for the company? Do they, can they fix the mistake once it's been made? How big of a mistake is that? Like, are they going to feel awful because of that? So if I can give them boundaries to say, here's how I would make that decision, maybe a decision tree that goes with that, and I can put boundaries in it. So something that, if it's a matter of, implementing a piece of software that will automate a process, if it costs less than £1,000 a month, then they have permission to just go ahead and implement that. If it's more than £1,000, then maybe we need to discuss as a team, what are the implications? Who else can benefit from this software? Do we need to change a system to make the most of that process?
Which is awesome. Would you say there's a part of your personal brand that is always going to feel hard to scale? Maybe something that's too tied to the individual?
Yeah, so I often get, like, when you build a business, you've built it around your unique abilities. So this is what your experience, your 20, 30 years of experience in an industry, or maybe it's combining two different industries and you've got a unique take on what path that you've followed. So your personalities, your skill set, your experience, that all becomes a unique ability that you have. And no matter what business and what job you do, you take that unique ability with you. And that's part of what built the success of your business. So there's a transformation that you create for your clients that is because of your unique ability. Now, what we can do is turn that unique ability into a unique activity. So if I said, the transformation that you provide for your clients, what are 5 activities that you do in your business that helps that transformation happen? And so when you can break it down and train your team to also take on those activities, then it doesn't mean that you lose your unique ability. You've just passed that knowledge and distilled that information that you've gathered over that 20, 30 years to somebody else, and they can have the advantage now of knowing this is the key to make that transformation happen.
That makes sense. So you're now coaching other people through this. How do you help people build systems that still reflect their voice and values and not just processes for the sake of it?
Value is definitely one of the first things. Their values and also their vision is the first thing I talk about with a client, because they might want to go one direction and I could be like, oh, but if you go this other way, you'll make heaps of money. And it's like, if it's so misaligned with them, then they're not going to do the work and they're going to keep falling back to that other path that they dreamed of. Let's say, like, if it was a lifestyle business that they've got in their head, they want to do their work on an island and just keep their team small, as opposed to, I could maybe see the potential of, if they turned into an agency or a franchise and expanded in another direction. But it has to start with their vision. And maybe once they do exit the business and somebody else takes that over, that person who takes it over might see the untapped potential and be able to take that next step. But while the business owner, the founder, is in charge, then we need to make sure every activity that happens is in alignment with their own values and their ideas.
What's one part of your personal brand that you would never delegate?
My personal brand, I think I can't delegate my personality. There's a passion, there's my backstory of why I'm passionate about what I do. And I could probably build a team that are also passionate about the end goal, but the way they got there, my origin story is very different to if I have a team member who would take over the organisation of the business. They might have their own origin story, that we're all walking in the same direction, but those stories, I think, are what sort of keep that motivation of getting to that end goal.
So mine would be linked to that, and it would be social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think when people delegate that, you can tell.
Uh-huh.
And you can almost see it's like a switch has been flipped. I'll give you an example of someone who's fairly topical for bad reasons at the moment, but someone who I used to really rate was Michelle Mone.
Okay.
So I used to really look up to her like 10 years ago. She was like the poster girl of sort of business women and stuff, and very visible. And her socials were really good, and they were clearly her, and they were really valuable. She was saying really useful stuff, and she was someone that was 10, 15 years ahead of me, so I did look up to her. Clearly, fast forward a few years, we've had some scandals there, and she is pretty disgraced. But before all the PPE scandal stuff, and if anyone's listening that's not in the UK, this is a British businesswoman. She's Scottish, and she grew an amazing lingerie business, and then ended up in some PPE scandal when she had a government role. So that's kind of the backstory, and she's now kind of in exile essentially. So interesting story. But and there's a really great show actually, if you've not seen it, on iPlayer, which talks about the rise and fall of her. It was so interesting because she did do some cool stuff, but obviously, interesting. Watch that, check that out. But she, a few years, maybe 2-3 years before the PPE stuff, she blatantly outsourced her social media, and it was such a personality transplant because what you'd seen before was very authentic. I hate that word, it's overused, but it was very authentic, and then it almost just went to these cheesy quotes and like pictures of her looking really glamorous at things, but with no context. And I just thought, ooh, I'm gutted you've done that, because now I don't want to read your stuff because it's not. I know it's not you.
Yes.
It felt really inauthentic.
I think one of the biggest mistakes I see when people are delegating social media is that the key metric isn't an effective metric. So let's say I hire someone and I tell them, okay, I'd like you to post 4 times a week on my behalf. And then they go off and they post 4 times a week, and it's very colourful, and they might even get some more followers. But what is the real purpose of getting those posts out? Is it actually, well, I want to bring people to my website? And so that's the metric we should be following.
100%.
So understand. And I would rather someone post less and get more results bringing them to the website, or if it's one video of myself to get that personality across once a week, and then like repurpose that video rather than just get the numbers, just get it out there, just to tick a box almost.
I totally agree. I could not agree more. And I think that's the thing with social media, is that you do need to have some metrics around it that aren't just post 4 times a week, tick. It's like, so what? Is it website hits? Is it inquiries? Is it conversions to sales? Like how are you measuring it? Otherwise, what is the point? So
exactly.
I could talk about that in huge detail. Laurie, it's been awesome picking your brain and learning more about how to scale and how to take the step back and all those good things. If anyone watching or listening hasn't met you before, where's the best place for them to find you?
I live on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. And if anyone's interested in working out what their bottleneck is, I have a little quiz on my website that they can work that out too.
Great. Well, we'll pop links to your socials and also to the website so people can find those super easily. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, it would be mint if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review on your favourite platform. See you next week.